Hello and welcome back to another edition of The Big Stage. We are now getting towards the business end of Euro 2020, coming up to the final round of group games. So there's plenty to talk about. We are going to go deep into how England performed against Scotland. But before I do, I just want to introduce my guests. Once again, joined by former England international Wayne Bridge. Wayne, how are you getting on?
Good, mate. Very good. Hope you're well. It's been not great time for England at the moment, but we're on 4 points.
Yeah, that's at least one positive. Also joined by Rory Jennings as well. Once again, Rory, how are you getting on?
Terrible. Feeling so
Come on. Got 4 points.
I wish, Wayne. I do like your positive spin there, but I'm just not on board with it at all. I think we were atrocious.
I know what you mean. I think you've got to forget that in a tournament. I think you got to think we would have took a point against Croatia and we would have took 3 against Scotland. So we're sat with 4 points. So look on the positive side of things.
Not a bad way to
I
say
like
it.
it. I like the angle. It's excellent spin. Alistair Campbell will be proud of that.
Oh, lads, we are going to go dig deeper into that game in a second, but I just want to bring up the overall tournament odds. France remain favourites as well, but Germany have come in after that big win against Portugal. They're now into 6-1. England out to as big a price as 8-1. You can get that. I mean, how does it look? Your overall feelings on Germany, Wayne? I think you're a bit surprised on how they perform, right?
Yeah, I am, to be honest. They've surprised me. I'd probably underestimated them a little bit. They were organised like Germany always are, and they played good football. And you don't go and put 4 past Portugal and not be a good team. So, yeah, they've surprised me. I didn't think they'd be as good as what they usually are. Germany being Germany, turn up well for the tournaments, don't they? And they just know what to do all the time.
And obviously France fell to a draw, or maybe it was the crowd that boosted Hungary. Rory, what do you think about France still?
I think France, I think what you also have to remember with France is, even though that result against Hungary isn't particularly favourable, what we learnt yesterday about France in the Germany-Portugal game, France made light work of Germany, and we've seen how good Germany are. So it's kind of irrespective of what happened to France in Hungary. France have trounced Germany, who have trounced Portugal. So I'm not ready to see anyone other than France being favourites for this tournament.
I think a big thing, like you mentioned, the crowd there, that's massive. You can see it's helped Hungary massively. Was it like 80,000 fans or something? So it's helped them massively. I think they defended well, obviously took the chance. But I still think France had chances to score. But I think the fans being there just helped them massively.
Absolutely. Right now, lads, let's dig into it. I know there's some negative feelings about England, but let's dive in and let's break down what happened in England and Scotland. So obviously for many, it was probably the biggest upset of the round. Wayne, I just want to get your perspective. What was your overall thoughts on England v Scotland?
Look, I was obviously disappointed like everyone else, but I'll try and be Mr. Positive. I think Scotland, oh my God, they rise to the occasion. There's talk of Harry Kane. What's happened to him. They had 5 at the back. They marked him so well. They gave him no space. So you have to give credit to Scotland. As they say, we look leggy. I think that's something that Gareth Southgate would analyse with the team. Were we leggy? I don't know if they were. If we just didn't rise to the occasion, did we play with too much fear? No urgency. There wasn't enough movement off the ball. And Scotland just done really, really well. I said on paper we should beat them, but they've got some good players and they fought hard. And Gilmour, oh my God, I've liked him, but what a way to go out and play your first tournament! Unbelievable.
Maybe that's a positive for you, Rory, right? As a Chelsea fan, Billy Gilmour's performance.
Yeah, it's nice to see Billy Gilmour playing so well. Of course, I mean, I'd rather it came in his game against the Czech Republic than against England. So no, I don't see it as a positive in that particular fixture, but I'm a huge fan of Billy Gilmour. I genuinely think he's a better player than Jorginho. I think he would offer more to Chelsea in a central midfield berth than Jorginho would. It's not about Jorginho as a player, by the way. I think he is very good at what he does. But I think the cut and thrust of the Premier League is more suited to Gilmour's game than it is Jorginho's. But overall, I mean, the fact that you've highlighted Billy Gilmour as a positive for me is you've done very well, because you found the one thing that I can take a positive for from that game on Friday night. It's literally the only thing that I can see being any good. I think England were atrocious. I think Gareth Southgate should hang his head in shame. and we got it so wrong. I wish I could do what Wayne's doing there, which is admirable, but I can't. I'm furious still.
Do you know what it is? I totally get it, and people are furious, and I think it would have been hard for them players to take. They've come up under a lot of criticism from pundits as well, which I'm sure they would have seen. 100% they would have seen. So if I'm a manager now, or if I'm Gareth now, you've got to analyse the game, where we went wrong, what wasn't right. You've got to put it right. Can't let it happen again. But also, I think, I'd be there like, sod what he said. He said this about us. We're going to prove them wrong. This is us. We're a team. We want to put in performances now, which were like the Scotland, where we're so together, but we don't care what they say. We go on and win our next game. It doesn't matter what they say. This is us as a team. Like, obviously you want the fans behind you and cheering you, and it does help. But like certain people that have said things, I'm like, right, let's silence them now. And they have got to go out and show some fight. I think what was probably disappointing more for me was the fight and the running around. I thought they could have just a bit more, off the ball. It was frustrating, I know, but now I want them to just go and silence any critics. That's what I'd love to go and see.
I'll tell you what, Wayne, as a player, I mean, for you, how do you kind of react when it's your captain and star man that's underperforming? I mean, how do you kind of react to that?
Look, I obviously didn't play in the tournaments, but I say you've got to have that togetherness. I've said that's what Wales have had that. I can see they've got that team spirit. Look, it was hard for him. It wasn't easy. They defended very, very well, and they marked him very well. There was no space. I really wish Grealish had played. I really wish we had just Rice, maybe drop Phillips and play Grealish and attack more, take the game to them. We needed a lot of creativity. It's always hard to find space when people defend deep. You've got to be a lot of movement off the ball. You have to be patient, but you've got to move off the ball and create. There was no space in behind. And I just think they did rise to the occasion. They did. This isn't a normal game, England v Scotland. And you see the Scottish fans, the Scottish fans that were around near me, they celebrated like they won the game. It was like they had won the game, like they had won Euros. That's how much it meant to them.
I saw they left their mark in London as well.
Yeah, it's I expect a very different England at next game. I do.
Just to keep on Harry Kane as well, I mean, he's not registered a shot on target yet in the whole tournament, so in both games. I mean, Rory, would you drop Harry Kane?
Look, there are two ways of looking at it, aren't there? You either say that Harry Kane is England's best player, England's talisman, arguably the best striker in the world, and therefore you have to get him playing well. So you do everything you can to get him playing well. Whatever changes need to be made, they all are made in order to suit Kane. Or, you see, Kane isn't the player that we thought he was going to be coming into this tournament. He's doing this thing where he's dropping deep, which is so frustrating. Like, he's playing in the same position as Calvin Phillips a lot of the time, which is total nonsense. And you go, I think that's something that he'd be looking at, though. And is he dropping deep? He's not getting the service. We had a bit disappointed. I know I can say I'm disappointed in the fullbacks, but I think everyone never played well collectively. Should have been more crosses into the box. When they're playing so deep like that, get the fullbacks wide, up more, and crosses into the box. Get him into the box because he can score headers. He's good in the box. Just wasn't enough of it. It just wasn't enough. No, but there wasn't enough of anything. Like, when you look at that Scotland team, it's all very well to say they rose to the occasion, which of course they did, but so should England. Like, we're playing against a geezer who, it's a Motherwell fullback who's phenomenal, who had a terrible game against the Czech Republic. Some geezer from Queen's Park Rangers leading the line. Like, what's going on? How is this an acceptable performance from England? Motherwell fullback, Queen's Park Rangers centre forward, and they're dominating the play and are unlucky not to have got a victory. It's embarrassing.
I just think things are going to get better. They will get better. It's tournament football. You can have a bad game and still go on and win to the tournament. So I think it's just, we are going to get there. We will get there. There is going to be a lot of analysis on the game.
Wayne turned into the lead singer of B-Ream.
I just think it's one game, and it's England and Scotland is never, ever just as simple as England and Scotland. And I just think there is too much fear in some of the players, maybe some of the players that have come into the team and they don't want to put a foot wrong. But you can't do that. You've got to go out and play with no fear and be positive. I don't know. I don't know what he does now, because I was singing. I really wanted Shaw to play. And as you know, you could say,
it's got to be Chilwell now, hasn't it?
Stay in the team. Yeah, it is. It could be. I just don't know. Just don't know how Gareth is going to look at it and analyse it. But yeah, I would be saying Chilwell. For me, before this game, I'm saying Shaw, but Chilwell maybe comes in now.
You did touch on it, Wayne. Actually, your best bet last round was for Phil Foden to get on the score sheet. Now, I know, obviously, Phil Foden came off for Jack Grealish. You mentioned Grealish as well. Is it a case that it's Foden or Grealish? Why not play both of them?
Yeah, I said that. For this game in particular, we knew, I thought they were going to sit deep, and they did, 5 at the back. So take the game to them, to take it to them. I think you have to think about the opposition you're going to come up against. And I just think it was a perfect opportunity to play them both together. I think Foden needs to get deeper into midfield, get on the ball and dictate the game. Drop, who could we have dropped? Sterling, maybe, just to give him a chance to see how he does, or drop Phillips and go all out a bit more, play Grealish and Sterling up top, get a bit of creativity going. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity and perfect game to play Grealish and go a bit more attacking, maybe with just one defensive midfielder.
And for you, Rory, how would you want to see England shape up against the Czechs in the next game?
I want to see Gareth Southgate being really brave. Like, the easiest thing for Gareth Southgate to do is to play the tried and tested. Like, it was a real statement and risk, but it showed the bravery of Steve Clarke to have the minerals to throw Billy Gilmour in there. Like, the easiest thing to do would not be to trust a 20-year-old. The easiest thing to do would be to not play him. But he took the risk and paid, and was paid out in full as a result. I want to see Gareth Southgate do something like that. I want to see Gareth Southgate. There's no need to play Calvin Phillips. Calvin Phillips is a decent Premier League player, but he's not an international footballer. And we saw that against Scotland. As soon as he came up against the midfield that were more combative, he looked average. So I want to see. You're right. Phil Foden and Jack Grealish on the same pitch. That's Gareth Southgate's responsibility. It's not either or.
And I think you want to see him on the same pitch. Mason Mount has to play for me as well. So you have one defensive midfielder, Rice. Don't talk about the fullbacks. Play whoever you want to play there. But I really want to see Grealish in the front three, say with Sterling and Kane, and Mount and Phil Foden in the midfield, and then Rice just sitting it and go and play football. Just go and play exciting, attacking football.
Now, Rory, you're actually spot on in your last prediction about the Czech Republic and Croatia ending a draw in their game. I mean, who do you think is going to qualify out of those two? Do you think the Czech Republic actually offer much against England?
Yes, I'm very worried about that game. But I also think that Scotland have shown enough. I think they have enough minerals. I think they can get something. They're playing at home. I think that they're going to knock Croatia out. I think Scotland are going to progress, which sounds like a wild statement if we reverse this back a week or so, which I would have never thought. But I genuinely think that Scotland, the Czech Republic, and England are going to progress from this group.
Now, I did actually make a bold prediction myself, just in amongst our kind of behind the scenes guys. I said if Scotland get 4 points, I will wear a kilt on the next edition of the big stage. So hopefully they won't actually go and progress and go and win.
I predicted all of them to go through the group stages, so I'm hoping they do, but I don't at the same time.
I'm not actually getting a bit nervous about that, to be honest. But yeah. Pretty good. Really good assessment there, guys. I think one other thing I want to touch on as well is just, you mentioned it before, Wayne, with the fact that it's tournament football. It kind of is in England's hands a little bit about who they could potentially play next. I mean, how much is that kind of in the mind game or like in the consideration before the next game? Are they thinking ahead to the knockout stages already?
If it was me, I probably wouldn't be, to be honest. I just want to go and play a good game. And I don't think you can go and play for a draw or want to lose the games. And look, we all think 4 points gets you through, but it's not guaranteed. So nothing's ever guaranteed. So I think you've got to go out and just play football and win the game.
Of course, it could be that if they finish second, they could end up in Denmark for the knockout game. I mean, how good could it actually be for them to kind of get away from London, get out of England, perhaps, all that stress and pressure that's on them?
it could be good for them. You know, there is always a lot of pressure, and I've always said I thought this group of players had enough about them to handle anything. They always look like they handle everything. They've got a bit of swag about them, but it could be good for them to get away. It definitely could be. You know, I just think anything could be better after this Scotland game. So it's going to go in the right direction. Look, we all want to avoid that group, France, Portugal and Germany. We do. But I don't think, like I said, nothing's guaranteed. You've just got to go out and play football.
All right, we'll move on to the other home nation that did actually impress, as opposed to England. Wales obviously got the win against Turkey last time out. What was your assessment of that game, Rory?
Huge, absolutely massive. Didn't see it coming at all. I think that a lot of hipsters, like football hipsters, were saying, "Oh, you know, Turkey, dark horses for the tournament." That was proved nonsense, wasn't it? Fantastic result for Wales. But Gareth Bale, despite the issue in the game, obviously, I thought he was brilliant. I thought the speech that he gave after the game was rousing. And look, the link-up play with Aaron Ramsey to get the goal, it was very impressive. And there seems to be something about this Wales team. I think they can go. Look, they got to a semi-final, didn't they? So there's no reason that they can't do something like that again. Which again, I can't believe I'm saying, but they look far more impressive than England.
How about you, Wayne?
Do you know? I kind of wrote them off a little bit. I did. My prediction was that Wales, Scotland, and England all get out the group stages, but I think they were so good. They were great. You look at the runs that Ramsey was making in Gareth Bale, some of the passing that he was picking him out with. Ramsey could have definitely had a few. I thought they were brilliant, and there was times you see Ramsey slide tackling in the right back position. Like it was like Scotland and Wales showed a lot of fight. They showed a lot of fight, but they played good football as well. They did play good football. And I'm surprised the game went like that. But fair play. I always said Wales had that team spirit, and you can see it, and you see it in that game. But they played good football as well. They did play really good football.
Now, obviously, they do come up against Italy in their next game. They don't have to win it. But do you think Italy might kind of slow down a little bit, seeing as they have secured the qualification already? Do you think that could happen, Wayne?
I think it could do. It depends if they rest players. I think I would if I was them. Tournament footballs, the games come thick and fast. If you can rest players, I would do it. The centre halves are not old, but they're the older part of the team. So I would probably rest them. They must be 36 and into both in their 30s. Maybe rest a couple of the front three to make sure everyone's fresh. So, anything could happen with Italy. I think they could maybe rest a few, and I think they should. So Wales have definitely got a chance of it. Definitely got a chance.
One other thing with that, though, is that Wales are travelling from Azerbaijan to Italy. You said the games come thick and fast. I mean, how big a factor will the travel be? I think it's an 8-hour flight or something like that over to Italy.
Is it 8-hour flight?
I think so.
Well, I'll tell you what, they will travel in style, I think. They will have an 8-hour flight, but exactly. it will be a business first class flight, I would have thought. Footballers do tend to travel in style when it comes to this. So hopefully it won't affect them too much. And the recovery and everything they do, ice baths, is quite good. So I don't tend to take too much travel into consideration because I'm sure it will be a luxury plane.
So it never had an impact on you as a player at all?
No, I don't think it ever did, to be honest. Like I said, we always travelled in luxury, even if for England, at the start of my career, we'd be travelling in coaches up to Newcastle. We'd be on a 7-hour bus journey. And I think those are the journeys that really affect you. We'd be, during my career after that, you'd be flying up there, or you'd be on a train where you can get up and move around. And I'm sure if they're travelling that far, this plane will be first class. They'll be able to move around. They'll have beds. That they'll have everything they need. So I don't think it ever really affected me that much at all.
But Rory, do you have a prediction for this game, for the Italy-Wales game?
Yes, I think Italy will beat Wales. I think Italy will beat Wales fairly convincingly. I think it'll be 2-0 to Italy. But I don't think that takes anything away from Wales. I think they've already done enough, haven't they? And they can almost relax into this one.
Yeah, that's fair enough. They can play with a bit of freedom, which is something we've not seen from England, I think. But going back to that England game, we do have our bet builder. So we've built a couple of, a few selections from ourselves. We can just pull that up for you now. We've got England, so I will go for England to keep a clean sheet again. I think the defence has actually been pretty solid. 2 clean sheets already. Wayne's going to stick with Harry Kane. They're going to put his faith in him.
Come on, Harry.
And Rory's going to go for Grealish to score. Now, of course, if Grealish doesn't get on the pitch, then that part of that bet will not count. It will be void. But hopefully he does play and hopefully contributes as well. So that's our top bet builder prediction for the England game against the Czech Republic. Now we're going to move on to another group that actually is kind of wide open in terms of who can qualify. I just want to touch on Group B. Obviously, Denmark may be the big story of the tournament, of course, with Christian Eriksen. They came out amazingly well against Belgium last time out. The first 10 minutes, they almost looked like the world beaters, but it kind of dropped off in the second half. They did lose, but they are actually the favourites of the 3 teams below Belgium to qualify in this one. Wayne, I just want to get your thoughts on the Denmark performance against Belgium and how far they could go in the tournament.
Well, I don't know how far they could go, but they definitely impressed me. Played really well. Obviously, they could have probably had a couple more. But saying that, when De Bruyne come on, oh my God, he was just brilliant. And I don't know if Denmark were maybe just drained from that first half performance. But he just seemed to open them up when he come on. But they've got to take the positive out of that. They did play so well in the first half. But they'd be a bit deflated because they could have probably had more than one. And it's De Bruyne just come on and showed what he's capable of. He's one of the best around.
How about you? For you, Rory? I mean, you said that Belgium maybe would struggle in the tournament. How have you assessed them so far?
Well, they've been very good. It isn't. I never thought they'd necessarily. I didn't necessarily think they'd struggle in the group, but I think that they have a ceiling. Their ceiling isn't the group. I think that they will progress, but I think that ultimately, when they come up against somebody that is of an elite level nature, Roberto Martinez will fade into obscurity.
I mean, for me, my best bet actually from the round is for Denmark to win and actually then go and progress. I think it was Lukaku came out after the game as well. He said he would do it for Christian Eriksen. They'd try and go get a massive result against Finland as well. So I feel like Denmark will be too strong for Russia and they'll get the win in that one. We're going to move on, just touch on as well games last night involving Spain. They were pretty disappointing yet again in Group E. And so guys, what do you make of how Spain performed? I mean, again, disappointing draw, right, against Poland?
I just said I told you so. I said they'd flop. There you go. It was disappointing. I said they'd flop, so I'm right.
But again, it looks like the goal scorers is the opposite. Like, that's the problem, right?
Yeah, it is. It's the firepower. It's just a very, very tight group. So, I don't know what's going to happen. To be honest, it's a tight group.
I mean,
if you go into a tournament,
go on, Rory.
I was going to say, if you go into a tournament and Alvaro Morata is your hope for goals, you're not scoring many goals. Like, trust me, I've been there, I've lived it. It's a lived experience for me. I've had my hope for goals be Alvaro Morata before, and I guarantee you, I don't think that Geezer doesn't know the offside rule. I genuinely don't think he knows it. Like, someone in the Spain camp needs to just talk him through it because he is so wasteful. It's unbelievable.
They're not going through. Yeah, they're not going through either. For me, they're not going through. They're not going to get. I don't see them getting a result against Sweden. Just can't see it. From
what we've seen, though, I mean, who would you want for England to play against? Would you want Spain to qualify because they do look kind of fragile or easy to get past?
You want Slovakia or Sweden, really, don't you? Just because. And now I've said that about Morata. On his day.
He'll end up scoring for 2 past England.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, I think you when Spain, regardless of form, regardless of performance, Spain are a heavyweight. I think you always want to avoid the heavyweights.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should be scared.
I'm also at a point where sometimes it's, on paper, England, Scotland. I know it's very different from England, Scotland because of the rise to the occasion, but I don't think you should have it. You're going to have to beat a good team. You get to the final, you're going to have to beat a good team. So it doesn't matter when you play them. I just think get out, play football, win your games, and you're going to have to beat people to get through. I would absolutely hate to think we'd like to play these because it's going to be an easier game, and then you're too relaxed about the game, and you end up going to get beat. I just think you're going to have to beat one of the top teams at some stage to just beat them in the next round or the round after that. I don't think we should be thinking, let's hopefully we get Spain or Slovakia, because anything can happen in football.
I think you touched on there the top teams. I think we can move on as well to look at Group F. Obviously, maybe the game of the tournament. I mean, Rory, did you have that down as being such a spectacular game, Germany against Portugal?
I suppose, again, because it's on paper, that does look like a very appetising fixture, doesn't it? I don't think anybody saw it going the way that it did, though. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people will now tell you that they always fancy Germany or whatever, but I don't think that's true. I think that Germany were magnificent because it didn't go their way. They had a goal disallowed early on, a fantastic goal, by the way. Like, the athleticism involved in the goal that was ultimately ruled out was amazing. They then fell a goal behind. Ronaldo scored, and you kind of think, okay, that should take the stuffing out of Germany, but it didn't at all. Germany came back. They were magnificent. I thought Kai Havertz, outrageous. Can you imagine how much Ruben Diaz must hate playing against Kai Havertz? Like, it just drives him mad every time they come up against each other. I thought Goossens was brilliant. Serge Gnabry, I mean, I know he wasn't good enough for West Bromwich Albion, but he was certainly good enough for Germany. Germany are now real contenders, and anybody who wrote them off, perhaps me to a degree, now has to eat a bit of humble pie because they gave Portugal a real lesson.
I thought they'd flop.
I think I'm the same. Yeah, I kind of wrote them off a little bit. Although I did have Timo down to score 3 goals, which obviously doesn't look like it's going to happen. But yeah, they have surprised me, done really well, and like I said, to go out and do what they did against Portugal, they would like typical Germany, very well organised. They played good football, and now they're up there with a chance to win it, which I never would have thought that at the beginning of the tournament. They have definitely proved me wrong.
So obviously the standout game then in Group F is Portugal against France. I mean, how do we see that one going, guys? Start with you, Rory.
I think France are going to be too strong, really. I think that France are just going to have too much about them. They are so intimidating. And when you think about what they have at their disposal, it's almost perfection, isn't it? I mean, it's going to take something exceptional to stop them. But when you think it's Pogba, Rabiot, Kante, and then in front of that, it's just talent upon talent upon talent. You look at where the weak link is, and I don't know, maybe I'm being harsh, but I think you have to attack them. Kimpembe maybe you could get at him. Lloris potentially has some flaws in his game, but ultimately it's going to take something spectacular from Portugal, and I don't think they have it in them.
I mean, how do you see it, Wayne?
I kind of agree. It's like you try and look at a weak link in the France team, and I know Hungary got a draw against them, but they did defend very well, and the crowd and everything, and maybe give them that uplift. But I don't see Portugal being a problem to France with the players they've got. I fancy France and Germany to definitely go through, and and Portugal. What are they on? 3 points at the moment? So that obviously doesn't get you through. So I fancy France to not make light work of Portugal, but win. They will definitely win. They won't make it light work, but they will win. And I think if Portugal go at France, then they could leave themselves wide open. And France are very, with Mbappe up front, can be very quick on the counter-attacks. I think if they go at them too much, then they're just going to leave themselves wide open.
I think it does look like Portugal are pretty much sure of qualification. It will take something special. In the rankings of the third place teams, they are actually the top of those third place teams at the moment. It takes a little bit of, maybe some Rubik's Cube working out how actually.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to look through it and thinking, does 3 points actually get you through? Is 4 points kind of does, but you're not guaranteed.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know. I keep trying to analyse it.
Of course, we'll figure that out by the time of the next show. But anyway, moving on, I just want to bring up some of our best bets from last show, just to see how our guys did. So we already touched on there, Phil Foden. Unfortunately disappointing, but Rory, good work with picking out Croatia, Czech Republic to draw. And myself, I went for Netherlands -1. I felt like the firepower they have, they can actually perform really well on the big stage.
You let the team down, Wayne.
You know what? I did all right last week. This week was very, very poor, I must admit.
Let's see if that can change then for our next round of fixtures. So we're going to pull up our best bets for this game, for this week. So yeah, we have England to score last. Wayne, can you just talk us through that prediction?
Well, we've got to score, surely. And, I fancy us to win. I'd love to keep another clean sheet. But yeah, I fancy us to score last. So if we do concede, I think we are going to score again. We're going to win the game. I know that. And I hope we keep a clean sheet again, which I think is definitely possible. So yeah, I thought it was an easy one, really. It's going to happen. I'm back on form.
Fair enough. And moving over to Rory's prediction as well. Belgium -2 against Finland. Talk us through that one.
I just think Belgium are going to trounce them. I think that I was fairly confident that would happen anyway. Finland have already achieved so much this tournament, and Belgium are so much better than them. I felt like that was in the bag anyway. But since then, I've learned that Romelu Lukaku has promised a trouncing. I believe that man. I think he's one of the best strikers in world football. If Rom says it's happening, it's happening.
For me though, does he play though?
That's the only thing.
Does he rest? Do you know what I mean? That's for me. That's
goals.
The only thing. Okay, I know he does want goals. He does want goals.
He wants goals.
Do they rest him? That's the thing.
That's the only doubt. Yeah.
Well, if he plays, there's a trouncing on the way.
If he doesn't play, I told you so.
There you go. We'll save that for sure. But for me, my prediction is that Denmark will go out and get that win for Christian Eriksen. They can still qualify as well, so that'll be a great story if they do manage to do that. So moving on, we are going to look at our bold predictions for the rounds. These are not necessarily guaranteed, a bit more kind of outsiders. Last week we did look at both Group E games to finish as a draw from Wayne. That didn't come true. Rory's bet is still hanging on, Scotland not to score during the tournament, and I predicted that Spain wouldn't score again given that firepower. But Rory, are you still confident on that prediction that Scotland won't score at all?
He's not.
No, I'm not. I think they've done enough. To suggest that they can get something out of that Croatia game. But equally, the bet's still alive. So
yeah, it is alive.
There's an
definitely a possibility.
There. Yeah.
So we'll move on to our own bold predictions for this week. So yeah, here you go, Wayne. You did actually predict that Scotland will win. You think they've shown enough?
They have. So sorry, Rory. Yeah, they will score. I think they have. And that they're going to take so much confidence from that. And I'm obviously like Chelsea a lot, so I'm buzzing about Billy Gilmour. I expect him to have a really big game in midfield. I think Croatia is probably at their best in midfield, and that's where we won the game. So I think Scotland can go and dominate that area and score a goal.
Now touching on back to the Wales-Italy game, Rory, you did say you think Italy are going to win, but a bold prediction for you?
The problem is, I said that I thought Italy were going to win, but I made this prediction because I thought that Wales were going to need something from this game. I didn't see Wales beating Turkey. So when I thought that Wales were going to go into the Italy game needing something, I thought that they were going to get a draw. But now it's already in the bag for them. I've kind of amended that. So I've basically got all bases covered. Bet with me, you can't lose.
Yeah. I think Wales get a result. I think Italy definitely rest some players, I think.
That's it. I mean, obviously, you could even.
That's part of that's part of my reason to earlier when I said that I think Wales will get beat. It's because I think that they're through. They don't need to force a result.
That's true. Obviously, a good piece of advice here would be to look out for the starting lineups and then maybe get your bets on then. So adjusting based on who starts, then maybe that's the time to place your bets. For me, I am going to be back in England to keep a clean sheet yet again. I think that Tyrone Mings has showed himself as being a quality defender. I know, Rory maybe didn't big him up too much before, but now he has kind of settled into that role. Maybe not against the best opposition, but still pretty good. Also for Italy to keep a clean sheet as well. So perhaps if we see a 0-0, then we can get all of our bets to win there with, Rory going for a Wales draw as well. I think France are going to be solid enough to keep a clean sheet. I've said that Ronaldo wouldn't score, so that prediction is completely gone now. He's actually going to win top goal scorer by the looks of things, but
he's going to say
doesn't look good for me. But yeah, I'll go for France as well to keep a clean sheet against Portugal. I think they will be solid enough at the back. But for now, I think Wayne, you do need to run, so we're going to say goodbye to you at this point, and we're going to move on to another topic. So thanks a lot, Wayne, for your involvement.
Thank
and we'll see you again
Cheers.
on the big stage very soon.
Cheers, Wayne.
Cheers. See you later. Bye.
Now we are going to move on to another brilliant segment that we like to call Rory's Rant. Now, so once again, our special guest, Rory Jennings, has got a topic he wants to discuss, something you want to get off your chest, Rory. Over to you.
There most certainly is, Joe. And the thing that has been troubling me massively since that pitiful draw with Scotland was Gareth Southgate's approach to that game. I think Gareth Southgate, I've done my best to pledge unilateral partisan support to him, but he has now made it untenable and impossible. And it is clear that he is not good enough. He has been tactically outthought by Steve Clarke. He has been proved that he's tactically inept by Steve Clarke. Now, as much as I love Steve Clarke was part of one of the best defences to have ever played at Stamford Bridge. Steve Clarke, Erland Johnson, Jakob Jelberg and Terry Phelan. That was the dream team for me when I was young. So I will always have an undying love for Steve Clarke. However, he is not a top-level manager, but he has shown Gareth Southgate to be an amateur. The way that Gareth Southgate approached that game compared to the way Steve Clarke did. Steve Clarke had the bottle, the minerals, the foresight to play Billy Gilmour. We've got Jude Bellingham sitting on the bench. Doesn't get a look in because we have to play someone so defensively minded in Calvin Phillips. Calvin Phillips isn't an international football player. He's a very good Premier League player, but he isn't an international football player. We have a jewel in the crown in Jude Bellingham sitting on the bench, and Gareth Southgate's too scared to play him. Another reason, people keep saying, is it Phil Foden or is it Jack Grealish? Gareth Southgate's responsibility is to get those two players playing for England together in harmony. If you look at what Steve Clarke did, Steve Clarke, arguably Scotland's two best players, play in the same position. You've got Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney both competing for the same position. Steve Clarke worked out a way to get them both on the same pitch. Steve Clarke works out a way to get his two best players playing in sync and in tandem, in perfect harmony. Gareth Southgate won't even try it. Gareth Southgate just says it's one or the other. Harry Kane starts, Raheem Sterling starts, Calvin Phillips starts. It's so uninspiring. The first ever Rory's Rant I did was at people who didn't support Gareth Southgate, didn't pledge support to him and his project. I'd like to now, at the end of this rant, apologise to every single one of them. They were totally correct and I was totally wrong. Get him out now.
Wow, big words there, Rory. I don't think we're going to see Southgate get sacked for showing what he's done so far, but perhaps that'll happen if England do crash out of the tournament. Now we're going to move on to our community section here on the big stage, where we're going to look at some of the best bets from the betting expert community of tipsters. So as ever on Betting Expert, our tipsters are posting plenty of tips across all of the matches in the upcoming round. I do want to highlight our treble that we picked out from last week as well. Now this one didn't perform so well, it didn't win, but we did have two parts of the treble, did look pretty good. Holland, Austria going over 2.5 goals, Sweden, Slovakia, Sweden to win. And then unfortunately France -1.5 looked like a pretty sure bet, but this one didn't come in. But I also want to bring up our next round of top tips. Again, this is from a community of tipsters with proven track records of profit. And I've kept Rory on for here as well. I want to get your thoughts. Sweden to win against Poland. What do you make of that bet?
Yes, I think that one is fairly solid. The Swedes have looked good. Alexander Isaacs looked brilliant. They have a great blend of experience and youth. And I think Poland have looked fairly stale, haven't they? I know Lewandowski's now amongst the goals, but I don't think they'll have enough. I believe that is a great shout.
And we'll pull up the graphic again for the second bet as well. So Belgium -1.5. We've spoken about that one as well on the show, Rory. I know you're pretty keen on Belgium as well. And Scotland +0.5 goal against Croatia. So, of course, if they do draw that game, then that part of the bet will be a winner as well. What do you make of that one?
I think that's probably a good shout as well. I've said in the show there that I think Scotland can now go through. I think that Croatia, despite having certain individuals that are fantastic, Modric, Kovacic, I think that overall they're fairly average and certainly beatable. And I was so impressed with Scotland. I think home advantage will be huge in that game as well. There's no reason why Scotland can't progress.
Absolutely. And that bet, of course, is at 8-1 with Bet365. Rory, pleasure to speak to you once again. Thanks a lot for being with us on the big stage. We'll see you again in the next episode very soon.
An honour. Thanks for having me. Cheers, lads.
And that wraps it up for the big stage this week. Be sure to check out more top tips on bettingexpert.com. And if you do place a bet, if you do follow the advice of me or Rory or Wayne Bridge, then as always, please do gamble responsibly.